For the recording, welcome back. We are ACI 6, Class 6 on September 23rd, 2024. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you just by way of your thinking of them. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you. Smiling at you with their holy great compassion. The wisdom radiates from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it would be. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. We are learning that this is possible.
Breath.
So I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And grow that longing into an intention. with that strong intention, turn your mind back to the precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hand and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, four lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of the Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Naham Bhavakam. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. To the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. To the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every single other. The last class quiz said list the 6 perfections in order. We didn't really talk about the order, but we've always learned them in order. Right? The perfection of giving, perfection of moral discipline, perfection of not getting angry in those situations where we used to, the practice of having a good time doing those other deeds, joyous effort, the perfection of meditative concentration, and the perfection of wisdom. And there really is a reason for the order. We'll talk about that in other classes, other courses. And your quiz asks for the name to name the 3 elements of the act of giving and what it means not to see them. And did you notice that the answer key for that question was different than the way it was given in class? Because in class it said the 3 spheres is the object, the recipient, and the giving. And oh, by the way, the giver is part of the giving, which is actually a deep clue, okay, for later. But then the answer key says the emptiness of the giver, the emptiness of the recipient, and the emptiness of the giving. And it left out the object, the emptiness of the object. So, yeah, if in your homework you answered it one way and then you saw, oh, that's not what they were asking, don't mark yourself off too much. Okay? But in your quiz, if you haven't done it yet, right? So that way between the 2, you've covered all 4 of the 3 elements of the 3 spheres. Anyway, to be aware of what it is not to see each of those elements goes like this: for the giver, meaning oneself. We think, my me is empty of self-existence. So that's my emptiness. My appearing side is I exist as these perceptions forced by my past deeds ripening me in this way. And so I can use this opportunity, this situation, to plant the seeds for ripenings in the future of me as a fully enlightened being, doing something for someone. And in this way, I don't see this element, the me, the subject side, as self-existent. Okay? It takes all those words. As we get familiar with it, right, we can pack all of that into, with bodhicitta, and mean all that, but not until we've worked with really imposing. I'm blank. I appear like this, so I can plant new seeds for something different, and that's what it is to not see me as self-existent. Then we go to the recipient, and we do the same thing. This other, they too are empty of their identity and qualities in them, from them. They exist as this perception forced on me by my seeds ripening. And so I can interact with them in a way that plants seeds for me to see them as an enlightened being in my paradise someday. And in doing so, I am not seeing them as self-existent. Right? That's what it is to not see them. Then the act of giving, we do the same thing. This situation of me giving something to someone is empty of self-existence. It is my seeds ripening, experiencing me giving this to them. And so I can use this situation to plant the seeds to see myself as a fully enlightened being, giving to others someday. And in doing so, I am not seeing this act of giving as self-existent. Right? And that's packed with all that meaning of why I'm giving what I'm giving, to whom I'm giving, and who I am as I give them. We just have to force ourselves to impose it. Then your third was explain how the first 5 perfections and the last one act as causes for each other. And we learned that the purpose of the first 3.5 is to do the deeds that make the goodness that will help us deepen our meditative concentration, that will help us reach the direct perception of emptiness, which is reaching the perfection of wisdom, so that we now have that wisdom in our minds as we do those acts of giving, moral discipline, not getting angry, and having a good time doing it. So the 6 perfections are guidelines of behavior to grow the goodness, to reach the wisdom, that once we have the wisdom, we do those same deeds, but now with the mind that makes those deeds actual perfectionizers. So the same deeds that we trained ourselves in, we continue to do, even like I was going to say, until we reach Buddha, which implies that once you reach Buddha, you stop doing them. But you don't stop doing them, right? Now you're doing them perfectly, which means, your emanations effortlessly, spontaneously, and also means that you and your Buddha paradise are not just sitting there being served by everybody, right? You're sharing your paradise with all the other Buddhas who are sharing their paradises. How cool is that going to be? Okay. So all of this ripening of this mind's past perceptions of me doing things to others. And none of it self-existent. None of it not projections ripening. Right? At the level that we're beginning to study now, to be self-existent means to exist independent of the experiencer's projection, which means to be independent of the experiencer's results of past behavior. And that's what to be self-existent would mean. Something that could exist independent of the experiencer's experience of it. And that's like, wait, does that mean if I'm not experiencing something, it doesn't exist? And it starts this really long, discussion and debate. And that's why there's 18 ACI courses, because it's not a simple answer. Things do exist, but unique to each of us. All right. And that means every interaction with every other is replanting imprints in our mind that will someday be our experience. And that means how we interact with others creates our future experience. And that means we can make any kind of future by way of what we see ourselves think, do, and say towards others. So we're wanting to get off automatic pilot, in which we are perpetuating our experiences that are misunderstood and so create suffering, our suffering, and create more. And we're learning, first of all, that it's possible logically. Then we're learning what we try to do, but it isn't so much the deeds we do, it's the state of mind we have as we do our deed that changes the imprint. Now, obviously, there are some things that maybe we do that we are going to decide not to do, like stepping on the anthill, like being careless in our driving. There are behavior changes we'll want to change, but mostly we're kind people. Mostly we're moral people. So mostly what we have to work on is our state of mind as we're doing our, pretty automatic kindnesses. All right. So this topic of the three spheres and being not the practice of not seeing the three spheres is really important. It's critical that we wrap our minds around that and figure out some way to trigger that thought. I'm empty, they're empty, this is empty. What's happening is results of my past deeds. And so what do I want to plant? And it's hard. I admit it's hard. So let's go to the sutra. At this point, Lord Buddha asks Subhuti a question. And he says, well, what do you think, Subhuti? When a stream enterer enters the stream, does she think to herself, now I've entered the stream? And Subhuti, he goes, no, she doesn't think that. Lord Buddha says, and what do you think? Does a once returner think to themselves, now I'm a once returner? No, they don't think that. Well, what do you think, Subhuti? Does a non-returner think to themselves, now I'm a non-returner, hooray? No, they don't think that. Well, what about Arhat? Once you reach Arhat, don't you think to yourself, finally, Arhat? Buddha says, no, they don't think that. But we're going to see later on in the sutra, Subhuti actually goes on to say, and I'm a realized being, like I'm that. It's like, wait a minute, you can't say that. So it's, it's like a conundrum. When you become Arya, do you not know it? Do you not do you not look in the mirror and go, whoa, no, really? Wow. Don't you recognize what level you're at? Like, why would Buddha and Subhuti point out that no, you don't say I'm Arya? Does that mean you're not allowed to admit it, even to yourself? It's curious, and they go into it much in greater depth in Master Kamalarshila's commentary than we do in this class. But let's talk about what it is to be stream enterer and what they mean by no, they don't say, no, I'm a stream enterer. Because they do know. They do now identify with being a stream enterer. So what does that mean? In that universe of Tong Chempos, a billion of a billion of a billion planets, inhabited planets, all those beings on all those planets, they can be divided into two kinds. I'm getting my vocabulary here. It is all a little bigger for me. There. There are two kinds of beings. We are either Arya in Tibetan Pakpa, or we are Sosokewo, that the word has this little funny R in Sosokewo. So that sometimes you hear it sounds like Sosokewo, and sometimes it's Sosokewo. There's this really subtle R in there that I can't pronounce properly. But that's why I put this parentheses R in case you hear it differently when other people say it. So Arya is Sanskrit. It means superior. It really does mean superior. But it means when one becomes Arya, they are superior to how they have ever been before. Their subject side, their me, through beginningless lifetimes until they become Arya, they are Sosokewa, ordinary being, a being who perceives themselves and others as identities in them, from them, right? Blaming stuff. We know ordinary state of mind pretty well. Arya or Pakpa is the term given or the description given to someone who has experienced ultimate reality directly. It only takes once to make this shift from ordinary being, Sosokewo, to Pakpa. Once we've had that experience, a direct experience, once we are Pakpa, we are forever Pakpa, all lifetimes going forward. Whether we remember it or not in that lifetime, next lifetime, right? We quickly will have it again or have the memory of it. So this word Arya, supreme, historically it's been used in a very incorrect and negative, awful way. And so it's gotten this bad rap, the term Arya. So be careful how you use it, or in the audience within which you use it, use the word. And it is true, it means supreme. But supreme to what we've ever been, not comparing oneself to anybody else. Because we can't know, even as Arya, we can't know whether the other is Arya or not. So Pakpa, Tibetan. Up until this moment of becoming Pakpa, our career in samsara, says Geshe Michael, is unlimited. Meaning the suffering that we have and are making is unlimited. Not even a fully enlightened being can say when a Soso Kewo will become enlightened. Right? They know that it happens. They see that it happened, but they can't say when. It's kind of a conundrum, right? When we're thinking self-existently, it seems like a fully omniscient being should be able to say, even for ordinary beings, oh, April 23rd, 3022, Kong Li, right, makes that transition. But they can't, because they can't change our karma, and we have these choices to make, right? So until Pakpa, we don't know how long it's going to take. So becoming Pakpa now, because of what happens in and after that experience, actually leading up to it as well, Pakpa is on her way out. They call that stream enterer. That being, once we've seen emptiness directly, we're in this stream that's flowing inexorably to our Buddhahood. So now we're studying Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. That means we're studying the Mahayana, the great vehicle. That means our goal is our total Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. One can become Pakpa, Arya, motivated to reach one's own nirvana. One can see emptiness directly with the training that says, this is what we need to do to reach the end of all our mental afflictions, all our own suffering. And if our capacity is such that we believe that's the highest attainable thing, then the stream that we are in is leading inexorably to our nirvana. We're studying Mahayana. So the stream that we enter as Pakpa from a Mahayana level of training, the stream is streaming us to the ocean of our Buddhahood. Once on that, in that stream, there's nothing, almost nothing you can do that will kick you out of it. Maybe the stream is a river. Maybe it's a torrent, right? And you're rushing fast. Maybe, right, there's a drought and it's just a trickle, but you're always on your way to your Buddhahood. Everything that you do is moving you towards your ultimate goal. That's what it is to be stream enterer. And that's the effect on our mind seeds of the direct perception of emptiness. we could say, like in modern times, we would say, your direct perception of emptiness puts you on the conveyor belt to Buddhahood. You know, if there were conveyor belts in Buddha's time, they would have called us on the conveyor belt. But all they had was streams that flow inexorably to the ocean. Pakpa. So this is where the term stream enterer comes from. And that is what makes the difference between Pakpa and Sosokewo. Sosokewo is still spinning our wheels, perpetuating suffering, suffering and perpetuating suffering. Pakpa is on this direct line to the end of all suffering for everyone. You can feel it, right? You can feel this big difference. So another thing happens at the moment we become Pakpa, and that is that we become two of the three jewels. So the three jewels we've studied, Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel, Sangha jewel, and we've learned the distinction between Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, meaning Buddha nominally, that being Shakyamuni and others who have reached that goal, and so are compelled by their compassion to teach us how to do it too. But Buddha jewel is the emptiness of that being, and the emptiness of their mind, and the emptiness of the process. And we come for refuge in the Buddha, the one that teaches, but our real protection is understanding what it means to be Buddha and what it takes to get there, because that guides us in the behavior to try and create that for ourselves as well. Dharma jewel, we know the Dharma is the teachings, but the Dharma jewel is the realizations and cessations in the minds of the practitioners. So the Dharma jewel is this realization that we have reached by way of our direct perception of emptiness, what came before and what came after, which now means we have that cessation, the cessation of the intellectual belief in self-existence. We'll talk about it more. And so once we have that realization and cessation, we are Dharma jewel. We are that piece of what all Buddhists pray to. I go for refuge to the Buddha jewel, the Dharma. We go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. Sangha, we know nominally is the ordained people. The Sangha jewel, however, is any being ordained or not who has had the direct perception of emptiness. So anyone, Pakpa, is Sangha jewel, whether they're ordained or not. And again, Sangha jewel means here's someone who has had the direct experience, knows what they had to do to reach it, has the realization that came out of it, and so is a authentic, can share in an authentic way, both scripturally authentic and experientially authentic. So the Sangha jewel really is because of their personal experience, we can rely upon their teaching. As Pakpa, our Buddha jewelhood is still a long way away, but we are two of the three jewels when we become Pakpa. Okay. So what does it mean to reach this experience that makes us stream enterer? Like, of which we will never say, now I am a stream enterer. This tradition, the Buddhist tradition, I'm going to specify that the Tibetan Mahayana Buddhist tradition is very well laid out. It's tried and true. We have it organized by the Lamrim, so clear, like in an outlined form, that if we just do it, we will get its results. It's up to us to do it, of course. So there are prerequisites to reaching that direct perception of emptiness. Prerequisites in the sense of seed planting in specific ways in order to grow this ripening of our direct perception of emptiness. We start from the level of Soklam. Soklam is that path of accumulation. To get onto the path of accumulation takes, for most of us, many, many lifetimes of disappointment, right? Struggle to get happy. Maybe we get a little bit and then it ends. Maybe we never get any, right? Depending on the realm that you're in, that just struggle, and more struggle. And then somewhere along the line, we're in a life where some struggle finally makes us go, there is something wrong with this picture, right? I don't get it. This can't be right. Nothing goes right. I've had it, right? That state of mind, unfortunately, can also go into no more, I don't want any more of this. This is hopeless, right? And suicide, people suicide from that state of mind that we're talking about, right? I'm not saying we have to get close to that at all. Don't hear that wrongly. But to even start onto our path of accumulation, it takes like something triggers us to be looking for some other way of living, some other way of thinking, some answer to why is everything so hard? Why does everything go wrong? There's got to be another way. There must be something I don't understand. Right? Something triggers that. And we start searching. And in that searching, we're on our path of accumulation. We're accumulating enough disgust for our worldly life that we're looking for something else. So the accumulation isn't the accumulation of new information, it's accumulation of suffering. So you could argue everybody's on their path of accumulation from since beginningless time, because we've always been accumulating suffering. But stepping onto Soklam is when we consciously think, oh man, that there's just something wrong. So Soklam, on these lums, these 5 different paths, they are paths in the sense of you start at the beginning, you do stuff, you move yourself along the way, something happens, you move to the next path. But Lam also means realization, making something now become real. And in that way, the Lam isn't so much moving from here to here, it's gaining this realization, being that now you know something from personal experience that you didn't know before. And moving from one path to the next, these realizations, Yeshua always says they happen in a deep state of meditation. I argue that the path of accumulation realization does not happen in deep meditation. It happens to us maybe even before we've ever heard of meditation, right? Something in life happens and it shows us the way I think my world exists and works isn't consistent with what this experience is, right? Something just broke. And now we're looking for how do you explain this experience? I think you've all heard that story of when mom and dad were killed in a plane crash, nothing was recovered, and my mother's gold nugget ended up in my bathroom, 1,000 miles away from where they crashed. And it's like, how did it get there? In my materialistic, real world, that was impossible. And yet it was this direct experience of her very material thing, a gold nugget necklace, showed up in my house from the bottom of the ocean off California. How did that work? And it sent me reeling and looking for an answer because that really happened. It was like the most tangible experience I've ever had. But it just pushed me into this. My reality isn't what I believed it to be since forever. And what else is there? And I don't know, almost 4 or 5 years later, I started to get my answers. So Soklam is accumulating enough disgust for our ordinary way of being that we go in search of something else. Reaching that, like the end of Soklam, not that we ever really end it, but the culmination of Soklam is finding what we're looking for, which puts us onto Jorlam. I'll get there in a minute. So this state of mind that's accumulating in our Soklam there's 2 levels of it, Nyenjung and Rabjung. These are Tibetan words. Nyenjung means to definitely come out. And what they mean by this is to definitely come out of samsara, which really means to definitely come out of perpetuating our samsara, because there is no samsara in and of itself to come out of. But we start out thinking of it that way. Here's this samsaric world. I want out of it. But to get out of it, we have to quit perpetuating it. So Nyenjung is a word for reaching nirvana or Buddhahood. So technically, the state of mind that's coming to us that puts us on Soklam is going to take us all the way to our state of mind of Buddhahood, having definitely come out. Along the way, we're cultivating Rabjung. Rabjung means to come out of the home life. And it's the term that we use when someone says, oh, I want to become an ordained person. I want to go live in the monastery. I want to restrict myself in these ways so that I can become a better being, right, and reach my nirvana or Buddhahood, Rabjung. But it's not limited to that state of mind, becoming ordained. It's a state of mind of leaving behind the worldly life in the sense of growing a different relationship with the things of our worldly life, the things and beings of our worldly life. one could argue that it's easier to 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 take ordination, give up everything, take ordination, and go live in a monastery, because you're sequestered and you're avoiding all those things that were made struggles. Now, right, you're all you have is your other ordained people that you struggle against, but it's like you've made your experiences smaller. And the idea is it's easier to be without mental afflictions if your world is smaller. But then if you go out of the monastery, you know, we're not so sure that we can still have this Rabjung state of mind when we're out in the world. So we can grow our Rabjung state of mind as we're out in our world, as we learn and study about karmic seeds. We find that all these others, beings and other things and experiences of our world are all opportunities to interact with them in this higher way, in which case we don't want to avoid them. We want to engage with them, but engage with them with this understanding of the emptiness of the three spheres, so that rather than perpetuating our suffering by way of our interaction with our worldly life, we're using our worldly life to stop perpetuating samsara. So the state of mind of renunciation, growing our renunciation, is not Buddha saying, oh, give up everything and go live under a bridge. No, we can give up everything and go meditate in a cave. And our meditation can be totally distracted by, what's everybody thinking of me? Are they admiring me? Or are they thinking I'm crazy? Right. And it's like, that's not renunciated, even though you've given everything up. Renunciation is this state of mind of the old way doesn't work. I'm working to train myself to interact in a different way, and refusing to let those old habits, those old interactions, those old needs and wants to be the driving factor in our interactions with others. So we can give up the home life and still be within it. And that's a really powerful level of renunciation. So remember, we studied the three principal paths: renunciation, bodhicitta, correct worldview. This one's renunciation. It happens on Soklam. We cannot reach our direct perception of emptiness without starting up this mountain of path of accumulation, the path of growing our renunciation. But you get what renunciation means? Renunciating our old habits, our old attachments, our old way of interacting with our world, thinking that what I do now gets me what I want, thinking that this is what I need to do to push away that unpleasant thing. Changing our understanding. The Soklam is this state of mind of, I've had enough of the old way. It has to be pretty strong in order to change our habits. And so really, it's not that we ever finish Soklam and go on to another one. Our level of renunciation carries through. And sometimes we just need to go back and revisit it. So renunciation is a state of mind more than a place, right? More than a giving everything up. It's this state of mind that puts our spiritual progress as top priority. Okay. So really, it's an attitude change more than a situational change. So then the next prerequisite is our Jorlam, path of preparation. Path of preparation, what we're preparing for is our direct perception of emptiness. So even on our Suklam, we're starting to learn new ways of being. Probably while we're on Suklam is when we first heard the pen thing, and we had the seeds to, oh, wow, I got a glimpse of something special here. And then we start studying. So Jorlam is where we're taking our class time, we're working with our seeds, we are trying to bring on these changes. And most important in Jorlam is becoming really, really familiar, says Geshe Michael, with this topic called Chi-Chedak. So the Chedak is spelled like this, Jedrak. But when you hear Geshe say it, it sounds like Chedak. It's one of those hard to hear R's. Chedak. Chi-Chedak. Studying, contemplating, debating, chewing on this concept of Chi-Chedak is the seeds that is taking all that we've learned in our class time, our contemplation time, our growing meditation time, and directing it towards this series of experiences that that take us to the direct perception of emptiness. So this topic, Chi-Chedak, it's like set and subset theory in, is that mathematics or arithmetic? The chi means quality, and chedak is characteristic, but meaning quality as in identity, and then characteristic as in things characteristic of that quality. So in English, it sounds like quality is, I don't know, can't think of an example all of a sudden. Quality is, oh, that person's a kind person. Characteristic would be, they're kind in that they're always smiling. They're kind in that they, always say something nice about somebody. Right, the ways in which they're kind. But here the chi, the quality, is this idea of an identity that's non-specific, and then the chedaks are the specific things that reveal that identity. There are 4 kinds of qualities, 4 kinds of chi. One of them is called sokchi. Sok means collection or gathering. So sokchi is a collection quality. They call it collection general. And a good example is the amala is the sokchi, and the chedaks are the 108 beads and the guru bead that make up the mala. right? So a collection of things that make a whole. Like a human body is a sokchi because it's made up of arms, legs, nose, ears, all that other stuff. The collection of things make up the whole, and we know the whole, the sokchi. And the chedoks are all those different things that come together to make the whole. That's not particularly helpful in this, what we need to do to reach the direct perception of emptiness, to understand that whole things are made up of their parts. Like we all know that. It hasn't helped us stop our suffering. Rikchi, the rik means like family or type or a group of similar. They call it the general as far as type. And a great example of this is motor vehicle as the Rikchi and Toyotas, Fords, Chevrolets, etc. as the chedoks of motor vehicle. So motor vehicle is a broader category than Toyota, isn't it? When we see Toyota, we automatically know motor vehicle, don't we? We have to. But when we say motor vehicle, that doesn't refer to a specific thing. It's the type general, right? The type quality, the Rikchi. All the different kinds of things that are recognized as motor vehicle are the chedoks of the Rikchi motor vehicle. So what establishes something as a Rikchi is that there are multiple objects which share the characteristic of it. So if we had motor vehicle, but no Toyotas, Fords, Audis, whatever, right? List them all. No specifics of motor vehicle. Would we have motor vehicle? Like, would we have a motor vehicle to deal with if we didn't have a specific of it? No, because motor vehicle is an idea, it's a concept, right? We could call it an archetype, but it's non-specific. It needs some specific things characteristic of it. Do you see how that word's being used? It's not that this Toyota is silver or gray characteristic. It's the Toyota is characteristic of the general family motor vehicle. This is important, like critically important, to catch the nuance, because this explains or shows us how it is that we identify objects, how we know what they are and what they do. It's through this process of Rik Chi Cheduk, of Chi Cheduk. It's happening all the time. So what is it about a taxi cab that allows us to recognize taxi cab, motor vehicle, a method of getting across town? non-Buddhist thought believes that objects are cloaked or steeped in their own identity, and somehow they send it out from themselves to the perceiver, so the perceiver can see it. I don't know, I still have to admit, when I see the car go by, I think the car tells me black SUV, white Tesla. And my initial reaction is, it told me what it was. But this cannot be correct, because if it were so, then every being that perceives that object would have to perceive it the way the object has shown itself, wouldn't it? And even if we say, no, the object shows itself to the little kid differently than it shows itself to the adult, because we know, right? Or let's say it differently, that the white Tesla shows itself to the dog differently than it shows itself to me, then it still can't be in it, from it, without depending in some way upon showing itself differently to the dog than to the human, which of course is absurd, because the Tesla doesn't know that the dog's looking at it or the me looking at it. But we let our minds have these stupid ideas. And it's like, who cares about white Teslas? The same process is happening when the boss is yelling at us, and we care very much about the unpleasantness that we're experiencing, that they are making me experience. So this concept of rikti is a tool that we can use to come to recognize, eventually directly, how it is that we identify things. Because when we get that right, it will change our interaction with everything. How is it that we know cow? How is it that we know human? How is it that we know table? It's important. Let's take a break before I go into it any further. I'm going to stop share and pause the recording. So Rikchi and Rikchi Chedoks, quality and things characteristic of that quality. Just listen, watch your mind in response to what I say. So what if I just say car? What if I say the word car, quote car? Now, a car, the car, that car, my car, your car, good car, bad car. Go back to just car. There's a difference. It's important to explore that difference. The difference between a car, the car, that car, my car, blue car, yellow car, Tesla car. Do it with tree. Do it with doorknobs. Do it with spouses. Do it with political candidates. Do it with work on this. What arises in our mind. It will go on to show us how we identify things, how we identify things. So that now within this category of Rikchi and Chedoks, there are two more specific concepts. One is Dunchi and the other is Drachi. Dunchi means a general as far as object. What they mean by that is this mental image that we get when we think of something we have experienced before. So when I say car, we do get some kind of mental image. You know, maybe if you're visual, it's probably a visual image that comes to mind. And maybe it's a visual image of a specific car that you saw. Or maybe it's a visual image of the first cartoon or drawing car that we saw as a little kid in the book. C is for car. I don't know. Mine are not visual. Mine's completely like conceptual. Dunchi is the mental image that comes up of something that we have seen before, experienced before. It can be a dunchi of a song, right? We haven't seen the song, but we've experienced it before. The mental image that comes up is different for something that we've experienced before. There's a dunchi, the mental image of the general, and then there are specifics of it that will pop up. Drachi is a general as far as sound, in which they're trying to say that there are things that we have heard about, but never directly experienced. And that then when we hear about them again, we have this drachi pop up, this mental image of something we've heard about, but not actually experienced before. We still can have a mental image pop up. So my example is like Niagara Falls, this great big horseshoe-shaped waterfall between Canada and United States on the border. They say it's exquisite. I've never seen it personally. I've seen pictures of it. But so when somebody says Niagara Falls, I do get an idea of what Niagara Falls is. But my idea is a dunchi because I've never experienced it before. I'm sorry, it's a drachi because I've never experienced it before. I also get a dunchi of the pictures that I've seen of it. Not that I see all the pictures again, but I have like one general idea from the pictures. And that's a dunchi of the pictures, not a dunchi of Niagara Falls. You see? So if our rikchis are generals as far as type, they need to be either a mental image of something we've seen before or heard about before. Meaning we have to have the seeds already for a rikchi to come out of our mind. And we have to have a rikchi for any chedok of that rikchi to also come out. So to work with this idea of dunchis and drachis as we're experiencing different things is is uh, is the momentum that we need to move us along this path of preparation into the path of seeing. Studying this topic, chichara, contemplating it, meditating on it, and doing lots of virtue, lots of service, lots of kindness intentionally. One day this might happen, says Geshe Michael. You could be standing at the stove one morning, heating a pot of water to make tea for your precious Lama, and suddenly you find yourself looking at the pot on the stove, experiencing the fact that there is no pot on the stove. You experience directly how your eye is picking up colors and shapes. Long, black, round, shiny, curved. This height, you experience directly that the eye information can't be the whole thing. You experience your mind taking that information and laying upon it pot on stove. Me seeing pot on stove. You experience the identity coming out of these seeds in your mind. You realize that you never experience pot on the stove. We only experience this idealization of pot on stove. And our idealization is a complete pot, front, side, back, bottom, water. It has parts that our eye information can't include. When we see the pot on the stove in the wrong way, we can't see the bottom, we can't see the back, we maybe can't even see all the water inside it. But as we're experiencing it, we think we're experiencing a pot with a back and a bottom because the water's not all over the stove. We're so convinced that the whole pot is out there on the stove. But when you experience that your eye is only picking up part of it, and your mind is making the whole pot on the stove, it's like, where is that pot? Does it become whole while it's still here in my awareness somewhere? Does it become a whole pot halfway out? Does it become whole pot because it has to land on the parts out there? You're perceiving directly how that process is making me seeing pot on stove. And so the pot is real and the pot functions. That experience, it probably goes on for a few minutes. It's our first accurate experience of deceptive reality. Is it our first experience of deceptive reality? No, because we have been experiencing deceptive reality since beginningless time. We just never knew it for what it was until this moment when we're, oh my gosh, right? The whole is this rikchi making jeda coming out of my mind. Not out of my head, but out of my seeds ripening. This experience is called chuchok. Here it is here. Chuchok means the supreme thing, supreme dharma. Chu here is dharma. The supreme Dharma. What it means is that this experience is the supreme experience that we can have in deceptive reality. Like the highest, the ultimate experience of deceptive reality is to experience deceptive reality as it's happening. It looks like it's in it from it, but oh my gosh, I see my mind making the overlay, making it. That's called chucho. When we perceive that for the first time, the goodness of that is a momentum. So we've been building this momentum by studying, debating, chewing on, working on teach and rock, service, dedicating everything. May I reach my Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings, which means may everything happen that I need to do to reach that. We have this experience, seeds ripening into the experience. And you make your tea, you'll go serve it to the teacher, then you go to meditate. That meditation, you'll sit down into meditation and you'll think about what just happened to you. And you'll run yourself through the analysis of it. And that will take you into the direct perception of the empty nature of oneself and all existence. Right. I just saw my seeds ripening, making this whole experience, the identity of the pot on stove. In this meditation, we'll go, oh man, and nothing has ever existed in any other way than that. And into the direct perception of emptiness, if we have the capacity to sit still and undistract our mind enough to allow that process to happen. So this experience of seeing our mind make itself and its world ripening out of its own karma is this powerful momentum that can push us into the direct perception of emptiness. So it's one thing to sit down and try to meditate on emptiness. It's another to grow the momentum that will push us into that. We do need to study the idea emptiness and study the idea chichara, and then work with this experience of chichara and help others work with it to plant the seeds to ripen that as our own experience. So in that experience, we've perceived directly dependent origination. We realize that nothing we've ever experienced has happened in any other way than that. And with that, we can slide into the direct perception of the true nature of all those existing things, but only if we have the capacity to hold the mind in that lofty state for long enough. So the chuchok will lead us to Tonglong. Sorry, there's noises in the house. Because of hours of practice, hours of study, hours of merit making, and hours of a Tempsat meditation. So it's possible that one could have the chuchok and go sit in meditation and have the direct perception of emptiness, having no training whatsoever, based on past seeds ripening. If life has been a big struggle, we can't really rely on that. We can rely on learning, contemplating, trying, right? Planting our seeds. So Geshe-la says, if you really don't care whether you see emptiness directly, don't bother to train yourself in meditation. Don't bother to reach the point where your life includes an hour of meditation a day. That hour of meditation does not have to be the whole hour in single pointed concentration shamatha. It can be, 10 minutes in, a few minutes out, as long as you don't ever stray very far from your meditation topic. The effort to sit in meditation is not really what creates the progress in our meditation, does it? We can train to learn to play performance piano. And if our seeds are not there, it doesn't matter how much we train, we won't get good at it. Somebody else can learn to play the scales, and in 2 months, they're able to perform because their seeds are different. It's not the effort made, it's the diligence of sticking with it, planting seeds. Each meditation session is planting seeds for future ones. What we do off our meditation cushion, plant seeds for what happens on our meditation cushion. What we do on our meditation cushion, plant seeds for what happens outside of meditation. The two go together. So, Geshe-la said, we're never too old, we're never too young. Learn to meditate. Start with 5 minutes. Add a minute each week. Within a year, your whole life has rearranged by 1 minute a week. And you have built in a 1 hour meditation into your life. The ACI courses even give you topics, so you don't have to come up with your own. It gives you the preliminaries. It teaches us how to do it. January retreat, we're gonna go into that deeply, of what it's like to do it, how to do it. Do it in preparation, right? You don't need to do it perfectly. And that helps a lot. Give yourself permission to be a lousy meditator, but trying to get better. And that's enough to be able to sustain the intensity that we need when we reach this chuchok into direct perception, right? The ability to focus inward and stay there, even if we're not perfect. All right. Geshe-la says an interesting thing happens with classes like these. The first time we hear something, our seeds ripen and it's like, wow, cool, I get it. I really want to do it. And hopefully we act on that motivation. And then we hear the same message again, and our mind goes, yeah, I heard that. And we don't get the same wow factor. And so we don't get the same motivation to initiate some change. So it's important when we first feel that, oh, wow, cool, like glimpse, to do something with it so that we can plant the seeds to get another, oh, wow, glimpse that we can do something with. Because otherwise we get to complacency. Like, yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that. We don't do it intentionally. It's about familiarity. So far we have these prerequisites. First, we cultivate our renunciation, right? Mentally giving up the worldly life. Secondly, we explore this idea of ji chedra, how mental images make the identities of every experience, including ourselves. And third, we need to be meditating regularly so that we have the power to sustain the deep meditation that will take us into the direct perception of emptiness. Specialist says if we really understand that just 20 minutes of the direct perception of ultimate reality is all it takes to be on that conveyor belt to the end of all suffering for everybody, like if we really got that, would there be anything else that is as important? Like everything we do would be directed at cultivating that ability. But again, it doesn't mean we just sit on our meditation cushion and sit there until it happens, because that's not how it works. And we would just direct everything that we do towards that result. So you see the seeds, you see the pot coming out of your mind. You go serve the tea. I'm going to go meditate. You sit down, you direct your mind deeply. Geshe says you have this sense of rising because you really are leaving, you're shutting your awareness of all this world off. Even the worldly thoughts popping up, you become unaware of them as well, but not unaware at all. And this awareness feels like it's rising, he says. And what happens next is described as Chula Chushakpa. Here it is. So you're going into your Tonglam as you sit in meditation. And all that can be said about that experience is Chula Chushakpa. Here the word chu means water. So it's like water poured into water. The Arya will say when they come out of it. Wow, what was it like? All I can say, it was like water poured into water. And what does that mean? You've got 2 glasses of water and a third one that's empty. Here's the left side glass, here's the right side glass. Once they're in the glass mixed together, can you tell them apart? No. Are both waters there? Yeah. That's what it's like, they say. Here, the 2 waters are subjects and objects. So while you're in it, while you are in this state of the direct perception of the emptiness of all existing things, which includes you, all appearances have disappeared. So all appearances of 2 things, subjects and objects, is not happening, because all that is happening is awareness of the absence of self-existence of all possible subjects and objects. Like it's beyond words. So I just said you can't describe it, and now I'm trying to describe it. So as I'm describing it, and I'm hearing myself describe it, I'm misunderstanding it as I hear it. We can't help it if we are non-Arya. But I'm supposed to try so that I can help you, like, try to cook this. And as you cook it, remind yourself, well, that's not quite right. Right? When you get to a conclusion, I think I've got it. Like, yeah, but even that's not quite right. Because we're somehow holding an identity in it that we just glommed onto. And that's an appearing thing. And the direct perception of ultimate reality is an absence, sheer absence of any self nature of anything. So they use the term non-duality. You reach non-duality. And non-duality in English sounds like everything merges into one. That would be one appearing thing. Like the water poured into the bigger cup of water, you now have one cup of water. In that way, that Chula Chishakpa fails. Because it's not that non-duality that you experience in the direct perception, is that you're experiencing yourself as one with all existence. That would be an appearing thing. And the direct perception of ultimate reality is the sheer absence of self-existence of anything, of all things, including oneself. So non-duality does not mean we merge with everything. It does not mean we melt into emptiness. Our self, our me, is a positive changing thing. Emptiness is an absence, unchanging. We can't melt into it. We can't become it. We don't reach our essence in the direct perception of emptiness. It sounds like we do. Non-duality means our awareness of subject and object is shut down. Do those subjects and objects disappear? It's a great debate. Does the tree in your backyard disappear when you're not thinking of it? I mean, technically, you can't say for sure, right? But that means it may or it may not. Same with our subject object. They don't disappear. We can't be aware of them. And that's called ni nang mepa. Ni nang mepa. Non-duality is ni nang mepa. We're not aware, mepa, of subject-object differentiation at that moment. Because all we're experiencing is the emptiness of self and other, the absence of self-nature. It's so slippery. Our awareness is in and of this different reality, pure reality, ultimate reality. The second meaning of non-duality is nyamni, which means totally equal. Totally equal means that while we are in this experience, the emptiness that is being experienced is the emptiness of every object, every existing object, and that the emptiness of every existing object is totally equal to the emptiness of every other existing object. Right? We're in that experience of this totally equal emptiness. It does not mean we are in the experience of an emptiness that pervades all. There is no such emptiness like that. There is only the empty nature of this and that and me and you and me. And all of those emptinesses are 100% equally lacking their nature in them. That's what the emptiness means. So the emptiness of the gnat, the emptiness of the Buddha, and the emptiness of you all experienced equally, 100% lacking their natures in them. This is what non-duality means. And it's really badly misunderstood because the English word implies from a mind that still believes in self-existence of something, that to reach the ultimate is when we merge with all one, right? We hear it again and again and again. And it can be helpful as a concept, but it's not ultimate reality because it's still implying an appearance of something as an ultimate. And an appearance of something cannot be ultimate because ultimate is that appearance's lack of its own nature in it from it, right? I know I keep saying the same thing again and again. I'm trying to get at it from these different places, and one of them is going to make your mind go, oh, right? So I hope I got there. So you have a question. It says something like, what does non-duality mean and what does it not mean? It does not mean you merge with oneness. It does not mean you lose your awareness. Sorry. It does mean you lose your awareness of the distinction between subject and object. It does not mean that subject objects are not really there. It does not mean subjects and objects are really the same thing. It does not mean that there are no objects separate from each other. It does mean oneself and objects are equal only in the sense that we are both equally empty of self-existence, empty of being anything but the seed ripening experience of the observer, who's part of that seed ripening experience. All existence is empty of self-nature, is what non-duality means. And so all existence exists by way of projections forced by karma of the experiencer of that existence. I like to say unique to the subject, unique to me, unique to you. So this water poured into water experience goes on for a period of time, and then those seeds shift, right? It's all being sustained by seeds ripening, and they wear out. And you have this sensation of coming down, descending down. When you are in it, can you have the thought, oh, I'm seeing emptiness directly. Oh, I'm stream enterer. No, because the you having that thought is deceptive reality. We can't be in ultimate reality and in deceptive reality at the same time when we are in ultimate reality. Right? Are we deceptive reality and ultimate reality at the same time? Yes, we are. Right? Because every moment of my appearing me is empty of self-nature. But I can't be aware of that and aware of the appearing nature at the same time until I'm Buddha. That's what it is to be omniscient. It's the perceiving emptiness directly and dependent origination simultaneously, and that's a long story. So while we're in it, we don't have an awareness of me being in it, because that would be a subject-object awareness, and we just said there's no awareness of subject-object happening in that time. And as we come down out of it, we realize that that just happened is a distillation of all Buddha's teaching. Like everything, all the literature, all the teaching, everything, directly or indirectly, is about what you just experienced. And you start into what's called Jatopyashe, your aftermath wisdom. You're still actually in meditation now, but you're out of the direct perception of emptiness, and these further realizations start to come to you. Altogether, there are 16 of them. And they become known as the four Arya truths, Pakpa Denpashi in Tibetan. They are the four categories of realizations that come to you as a result of your Chuchok into Tongong. You're seeing the seeds ripening, right? Experiencing dependent origination directly, followed by perceiving emptiness directly, and you come out with these, oh, that means this, that means this, that means this. They come to be known the four Arya truths. Mistranslated for noble truths, as if there's something really noble about them. They are noble, but that's not how they get their name. They get their name because every new Arya has these direct experiences. So, Pakpa Denpashi. There are 16 of them. We won't do all of them. This Jatop Yeshe will last from the coming down out of that ultimate reality until you go to bed. Like, I would think that on that day, you would put off going to bed for a really long time. I'm not sure I'd ever want to go to bed again, but it lasts until you go to bed. And of these four truths, four things that you come to know beyond a shadow of a doubt from direct experience. One, like the first that they teach us about, is Dunyal Dempa. It means the truth of suffering. Dunyal means suffering. Here it is up here. Dunyal Dempa. Dempa means the truth of. What they mean by that is that you now realize you have seen directly the reality of your death of this life, the one in which you saw emptiness directly. Part of that experience is that it's not like you see yourself on your deathbed, I don't think, but part of the experience is to know directly that the end of this life is inevitable. It's a truth of suffering. Another thing that happens as you're off your meditation cushion is that your mind has this ability to be aware of the mental afflictions in the minds of others just for that day. And Geshe explained that you feel compelled. Another aspect is that you feel compelled to make a special offering. And we've heard before that when you're thinking about what can I use that would, most closely match this incredible experience I just had, you think of diamond. And he said, so it might occur to you that you want to go buy a diamond to make an offering. And in order to get enough money to buy the diamond, you have to sell your car. So you take your car to a dealer and you're aware that the dealer sees you as kind of a spaced out, loser, and realizes that they could take advantage of you. They offer you a low amount for the car, it, but it's an amount that's enough for the offering you want to make. So you accept the offer, knowing that, like, experience that the guy's mind is happy that he just took advantage of you, thinking that he got the benefit, and knowing that will go on to ripen as that person's, loss and suffering in the future. And you don't have the capacity to address it or change it. You're just deeply aware of that person thinking that they just got a good result from doing a deed that will hurt them, right? Aware of somebody else's ignorance. and how it functions in their life. It's a suffering to be aware of that, not just our own, but to be aware of someone else's. There's the kunjung, the truth of the cause of suffering. Within this one, you understand that you've never had a correct perception ever until this series of perceiving dependent origination directly and then perceiving ultimate reality directly. Coming out, you realize since beginningless time, I've seen things validly, experienced things validly, but never correctly before. It's the truth of the cause of suffering, misunderstanding where things come from, allow me to continue to misunderstand what I should do to get what I want or avoid what I don't want, thus perpetuating suffering. We also see that we've never actually done anything that wasn't for our own benefit. No thought, no word, no deed. Any good, any goodness, any kindness, any offering, all our prayers have been mixed up with selfishness until this point. And it makes you sad, right? You see that that's the cause of suffering. Third is the Dunyo Kunjun Gokden. Gokden. Gok means cessation, the truth of cessation, meaning the truth of the end of suffering. We have experienced directly that reality which is free of suffering, ultimate reality. And going into and coming out of it, we now know that it's possible to end all suffering. We know that we've seen our future Buddhahood. We know how many lifetimes it will take for that to become our reality. And we know what we need to do to reach it. We know we won't be called by our same name. And we come to know the Lomden. The Lomden is the truth of the path. We know what it takes and how long it will take for us to purify and make the merit necessary to reach our goal. Typically called the Noble Eightfold Path from the lower traditions. Ours would be, yes, that and practicing the sixth perfection, moving ourselves through the Bodhisattva Bhumi. If we went into all of that experience with our mind imbued with bodhicitta, then also coming out of the experience, we will have that heart-opening experience of bodhicitta that Geshe-la describes, like the liquid light shining out of your heart to illuminate the faces of every existing being, and you love them, right? That liquid light is love. Right? You declare yourself to them. I will help you. I'm coming. Right? Be on alert. I'm coming to help you. You'll make your first real prostration because now you have confirmed that those omniscient beings are right there with you, not, somewhere far away. Oh, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, right? Don't we think that they're not close by, like we're not talking to them, but we realize that they are right there, and you throw yourself before them as you finish your meditation. And you understand the real purpose of offerings, without any selfishness at all. And you might offer a diamond to the altar, hiding it. You don't care if anybody knows. You understand that the images of the Buddhas are not you like someone thinking maybe this is what a Buddha looks like, but the images are actually reproductions of someone's personal experience of who they saw in their direct perception. Right? So maybe the Buddha you see will be Lady Tara, maybe it'll be Goddess Kali, maybe it'll be Shakyamuni, maybe it'll be, right? And then you come out of it and it's like, boy, I wish I could draw that, right? And get it right. The historical thangkas are, this is what I saw. And so when you paint it precisely like this, because like it's photographed, right? Copy the photograph correctly. Because if you change their nose, they didn't look like that, right? Don't give them blonde hair. They don't have blonde hair. For me, they didn't have blonde hair. When you see them and they have blonde hair, draw them with blonde hair, fine, right? So when we see the thangkas, instead of, oh, maybe, right? That's what someone saw. Someone met. You understand the truth of the Dharma, meaning you understand that all the books are true. You understand that you can gain enlightenment. You understand that there are instructions for how to do it. And part of the whole experience is that you understand you are not crazy, right? You went into it unimpaired, not drunk, not high, not sick, right? You went into it unimpaired, and you come out of it knowing that that was all valid and correct perception, which means nobody can ever make you doubt any of it, right? They can sit you down and tell you how nuts you are, but you'll go, I'm sorry you see it that way. Right? Once you know how to ride a bicycle, can anybody convince you that it's different than what you experience? Yes, riding a different bicycle, riding in a different location, that's all different. But once you know something from direct experience, nobody can convince you that that's not what it's like to ride a bike. Same with direct perception of dependent origination and emptiness. It takes both. Do you see how one goes into the other? And then you are invincible in your belief. However, and you are on the path of Gyuma Tabu, it's called, which is not sure what tabu means. Gyuma is the illusion. You're like you're living in the illusion. Where'd that go? You know the illusion. Now, you're out of that experience. You can't bring it back. You can't make yourself see the seeds ripening. You're back to seeing things in the same old way, in them, from them, but you no longer believe it because now you've seen personal direct experience that that's not true. You can't just turn it off by willpower. But we've lost our belief in it, which means as we go through our experiences, we're seeing them as in them, from them, and not believing it. And that's what it means to be aware of the illusion. The illusion does not mean the thing is not really there. The illusion does not mean, nah, then it doesn't matter. That morality doesn't matter because everything's an illusion, right? Illusions mean things aren't real. It's just magic. Nothing works the way we think it does, so who cares? That is not the illusion. The illusion is like the mirage. We think there's water there. There's not water there. There is the mirage there. To say that there's not water there does not make the mirage disappear. It makes the mirage be the mirage instead of water. So same with this being in the illusion is things all look like they're still coming at me, but I know I'm wrong. I know I'm moving about within these seeds ripening, and I just can't see the mirage for the water. Because of the conviction, we can choose our behaviors instead of reacting, because we know we're interacting with this thing that looks like it's from that, but isn't. Right? When we interact with the illusion, what it means is I don't have to react in the way that my habitual pattern says I should react. I can choose something different. Right? That's the power of knowing we're in the illusion, even as we can't see it accurately. So tongpam is the word for these mental afflictions abandoned by the path of seeing. Buddha teaches we have 84,000 mental afflictions that drive us in our existence. And by experiencing dependent origination and then emptiness directly, we get free of 2 of them. Sometimes they add a third. We'll talk about that some other time. One of those 2 is we lose the intellectual belief in self-existence, the intellectual belief that anything could exist independent of my seeds ripening it the way that it does. So we know we're perceiving things wrongly. We know our perceptions are defective. We just can't make ourselves see it accurately. The second mental affliction we lose is all doubt in the path. Because part of our experience was this knowing that everything in the Buddha's teachings is directing us in the way we need to go. We've seen directly the truth of the teachings, of the path, of the goal. We've seen the goal, Buddha and our own Buddhahood. So lost all doubt in the path. Our future lifetimes will all be spent in good condition. Nothing to worry about. You'll be on the path or quickly onto the path in next lives. You'll be cared for by beings who know, who are aware. There'll be a lot less struggle. But one still has 83,998 other mental afflictions that need to be purified. That's why it takes up to 7 lifetimes to do. So we're on our path of habituation, gomlam, it's called, where now we are using what we learned from that day's experience to know that this, right, angry yelling boss making me so mad that I should lie to get out of what he's saying about me is deceptive reality ripening, and I refuse to do what my impulse is saying to do. I'm going to instead say, I'm sorry you're upset. How can I help? And when they get madder, you just say it again and again and again. Eventually, they stop yelling because we stop blaming somebody for something they did or didn't do. Right? We stop perpetuating the seeds of samsara. Because now we know so clearly that the way I make my future is how I see myself interact with others. So every interaction with other, whether it's a this other or a you other, is my seed planting fertile ground to create. And we're training ourselves in our path of habituation to get off automatic pilot and consciously create. How do we know to do that? 6 perfection. We're on the first bodhisattva bhumi of perfecting our giving, which isn't just material thing. It's shifting this state of mind from, right? This is how we go through life. Get, to, We start with material things, right? Protection, dharma, love, and right, until we reach this place where we almost turn ourselves inside out. And then it's easier to work on our perfection of moral discipline. It's not like we don't bother with moral discipline until we get the giving going. We're working with all of it together, of course. But our focus of practice as first level Bodhisattva Arya is our sense of outflow, giving, sharing. And it leads us along our path, which I want to say until we reach Buddhahood. But do we stop doing our 6 perfections once we reach Buddhahood? No, we start our career, right? So we get to where we are Buddha, in Buddha paradise, emanating, doing our 6 perfections perfectly to help all beings reach that state themselves if they're not seeing themselves that way already, which we are, but they aren't. Is that possible? That somebody can see you as a Buddha and you can see yourself not as a Buddha at the same time? You're one thing. You can't be 2 things at once. But you can be 2 things at once to 2 different people, right? 3 things to 3 people. Billion things to billion people. How many people can see you at one time? Will the real you please stand up? Do you see? It's that simple. In the midst of the yelling boss, will the real me please stand up? Hey, it's kind of hard in the midst of an unpleasant situation. But the path is to work, play with it, play with it, play with it. So this is what our Buddhist practice is about. Grow this state of mind that needs to get out of the worldly life, the mental attitude of I refuse to participate in this wrong way of being. Train our minds to meditate. Learn how our minds create those mental images of things and then mistake them for being independently existing things. Reach the direct perception of dependent origination, followed by direct perception of emptiness, which puts us inexorably on the conveyor belt to our career as Buddha. Nothing else is worth our time, says Geshe Michael. Nothing else is worth our life. People are depending upon us. So that's class 6. You have what you need for your homework. You have a glimpse of how to work with Chicharak. I find it so interesting that that's like the most important teaching, and we got it 10 minutes of it. And we don't revisit it until course 13. And then even that seems like it's just so superficial. And then Geshe gives another class on it. And my mind is going, oh, he's going to go deeper into it. And it's like, wait, wait, I heard it the same, right? Who's seeds? So it is an important teaching, right? Listen again and again. Get all the ACI Course 6, Class 6 audios you can find and listen to them. There are even Chichedok only teachings that Geshe Michael has given. Listen to those too. But then also chew on it. Like sit in front of a tree and figure out the difference between tree and that tree. And then the tree the bird sees versus the tree your neighbor sees. Like find where that all comes from, where we think it comes from, where it really comes from. It's a fun contemplation. And in my retreats, I used to, in my break time, I had this teeny little cabin and I'd lay on the little bed and like from there I could see the door, which is an old Civil War wood door with this crotchety doorknob. And I'd just stare at the doorknob, 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 that doorknob, other doorknob, doorknob at home, right? It was just doorknob, doorknob, doorknob. And it was like, before I really understood it much, it was like, but it's fun. So remember that person you wanted to be able to help. The seeds we planted in this class are beyond powerful. And they will go on to help you help them end their suffering forever. And that's an extraordinary goodness. So please be happy with yourself. Imprint those seeds strongly. And then we'll dedicate them so they can't be lost. So think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hand. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness of this class and all the other goodness you've ever done. See them accepted and blessed. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. In there for you. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the true ultimate body that merit and wisdom may. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone you love. To share it with every being you've ever seen or heard of. See them all filled with happiness, filled with this wisdom, and so filled with loving kindness. And may it be so. So thank you again, and thank you for the extra 13 minutes. I will take that out of my bank account. And I think I'm down to 0. So I will try to do better. But that one's worth it.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Take care, everyone. This is Monday. I will see you Friday morning.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.